Howard Taft used to tell the story about the man who rose at the introduction of the Toastmaster. He looked out at his audience of about 2,000 individuals, and he bowed and commenced, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, for tonight's dinner I was assigned the topic, the Christian in politics. I have done a great deal of research on the subject. I've turned over a half dozen libraries, and it is my conclusion that there ain't no such thing. My argument is the reverse. Not only are there men and women of faith in the body politic, but who work out in communities, making things happen, changing things from bad to better. But there is also a danger, and that is that there are some, and maybe this has been the case throughout history, I know for the last 2,500 years it's been a serious problem, and that is people who have a religious faith or faith tradition. If you enter into the political arena, you will hear, in my estimation, ill-informed people saying, now, you know, religion and politics doesn't mix. And whenever I hear that, I know it's somebody who hasn't read anything but comments. And the reason is that almost from the beginning, in the Hebrew Bible, we see a man by the name of Moses organizing an AFL-CIO strike against Pharaoh from the beginning. And of course, Pharaoh, as you know, said this man has no business messing with the affairs of Egypt from the beginning. And if you travel through the pages of the Hebrew Bible all the way into the Christian Testament, it is a story of people of faith challenging the wrongness of government. That's just a fact. I wish I could tell you that there's another version. That's it. And so, you know, people will say that it doesn't mix. And so what are you saying? Anybody can have a role in the government of the United States unless you're ordained. And in that case, we have no use for you. That's dumb. And it's discriminatory. Now, if you mean that one faith tradition should not impose his or her faith tradition on others, I agree. I'm always amazed when I hear people talking on this subject, because they assume that there are a lot of religious decisions being made in the mayor's office. Look, there is no Christian or Jewish or Baha'i or Muslim way to repair a broken street main. It's broken. It needs to be fixed. Now, if you want to do something or Bow down and man, I'm not mad. Just understand all the people wanted the main bits. And so, I used to do, when I was mayor, 2 monthly radio shows, masochistically. I would go on the air, and people would call in, and inevitably somebody would call in, and question my audacity as a United Methodist pastor to be involved in politics. And it always bothered me that somehow we have become so confused on this subject. But I've come to the conclusion that in spite of the fact that we have universal free education, that as it relates to politics, and maybe to religion, we are, in elementary school as a nation, and so it creates all kinds of problems, I think, for government. Now, I can't tell you how many times I have heard people say, mainly black folk, the Lord put Barack Obama in office. What's wrong with you? You're talking dumb. And so usually I say, okay, that's good, he did. Now tell me who put George Bush in. And so if you make a decision that the people you like, the Lord put in office, the people you don't like, somebody else put in office. So we start messing it up. And then we confuse ourselves, and then we want to confusion to reign all over the system. And I don't think there is any darkness over this whole issue. Now, I think it is dangerous, and I have if I call the person's name, I have chaired the National Prayer Breakfast twice, and both times were with my fellow United Methodist, George Bush, and we had a very good time. And to this day, if he walked in here, he and I would hug and declare in front of anybody here, we're friends. We have some political differences, but I think it is absolutely ignorant what we're doing to the country and to our community, that we have become so pathologically partisan that people won't even have a conversation with somebody. And so I have avoided that kind of thing, because I think it is so crazy. When you are in the public arena, and if you are a person of faith, regardless of whether you are Democrat or Republican, you have, I think, an obligation to use that faith in the best way for God to use you. And we can't go into those situations with hostility. I walked into the Oval Office one morning, and President Bush said, you just missed my morning prayer. And I said, well, no, we got to do this over. I said, who prayed for you, Baptist? He said, yeah. I said, no, we're doing this over. But we did that over. We did it. When we get to the point where people of faith, just think about this, people of faith can't coexist with other folk, can't compromise with other folk. I mean, one of my great hopes is that there would be enough people in Washington, Kansas City, Missouri as well, who are willing to take the laxative called compromise in hopes of getting rid of the constipation called prison. Now, President Bush and I worked together on a prayer breakfast when we talked. I mean, we could talk about anything. You know, he was the owner of the Dallas baseball team, and I love baseball. We could talk about that. I don't think that we can afford to continue to go down this road that we're traveling. Now, I'm also, and George Bush never did this to my knowledge. You know, people go through life trying to measure other people's faith. That they are deputized to shine a searchlight into other people's faith. And of course, they declare in many ways that they have supremacy in faith. I could call the name of somebody who I want, who I had speaking at one of our every Thursday morning, 8 o'clock, we have our prayer breakfast. And I'll never forget, this particular person, who everybody in this room would know, looked me in the face and said to me, look, I love the Lord and the Lord loves me. And so I said, yeah, I said, but you know, sometimes you kind of treat people a little bad, here out on the floor, on the House of Representatives floor. And he said, now look here, what I do on the floor of the House has nothing to do with my faith. He said, that my faith is here, and this is my political world. And that's one of the problems that we have right now. You see, the Pharisees believed themselves to be Jesus Juniors, or they were the ones who presented themselves as, we are flawless, and they wore phalanxes on their arms where they had scripture written. They wanted everybody to see, their faith, But as you know, in my faith tradition, in some of our faith tradition, Jesus rejected them because of that theological arrogance. How dare they stand up and proclaim they're better than everybody else? And that's the problem we're having. Some people declare they are better than others. The weird thing is that, some of the cousins of the Pharisees still live. Believe me, they're still around. And they are, I think, people who cause much of our problem, even in the political arena today. And one night, as the story goes, a rabbi shared this with me some time ago. Moses is wandering through the wilderness alone. And so he, at night, ties up his camel and builds a campfire and begins to cook his meal. He hears something in the darkness, and he looks, and there's a Bedouin with his camel. Moses, being a man of faith, told the man, tie up your camel, come over and eat with me. Moses gives the man a plate. The man begins to eat. Moses jumps up, slaps the man. The man is rolling around in the grass. Moses jumps on him, turns him around, pulls him up, hits him in the nose. The man stands up. Moses gets him again, gets him in a headlock and punches him, and then throws him down. The man is rendered unconscious, and a short time later, God shows up. And so I said, Lord, I'm glad you came by tonight because you'd be real proud of me. And so the Lord said, tell me about this, Moses. How would I be proud? And he said, let me tell you. A man came here tonight, sat down at my campfire. I gave him food. And he began to eat before he blessed the food. And so, Lord, you ought to see the whipping I put on you. And he said, so I know that you would be proud of me. He said, that man deserved to beat him. And so the Lord said, Moses, I'm really frustrated with you. Moses said, why? And he said, because I think you believe you're more religious than me. And I believe that that's where we are now. We want to go so religious that we are more religious than our Maker. And I think that is a sickness. When I was elected mayor, the riverboats came to me. They weren't riverboats, major hotels came to me and said, we want to put riverboats in the Missouri River. And we're going to do gaming. And you can make a lot of money here at the city. And I said, well, you know, I'm not really in favor of gambling. I don't gamble here. I don't gamble if I'm in Europe. I don't gamble if I'm in a boat somewhere. I think it's a rip-off of the poorest people. So they said, well, you know, we think that it'll be good for the city. Well, the city held 3 elections. The preachers organized and fought it. And the sad thing about it was so funny to me because the preachers were all fighting it. Some of you may remember there was a big fight over in Missouri. Keep this sinful gaming out. And every Sunday the preachers were preaching, yeah, well, we got to keep this out. The parishioners, yeah, Reverend. And all of them went out and voted for gaming 3 times. And you tell me that the religious people didn't vote 3 times. So I made up my mind that I was not going to block it. I could have blocked it. And the reason was the people of Kansas City elected me as mayor, not their pastor. And I could not pour over the people of Kansas City, Missouri, my Methodist orthodoxy. That's not what. If that's what I was going to do, then I should have announced when I ran for office how I was going to say the Lord's Prayer. Because every denomination doesn't say it the same way. Forgive us our debtors, forgive us our sins. And so I think we do have to be careful. But we all are representatives of our faith tradition, wherever we are, whether we're in office, or whether we're the president of a neighborhood organization, or whether we are just one of the civic leaders who wants to be involved in helping make the community better. I mean, that's the responsibility we all have. And we don't have the responsibility to monitor people and place our theology on them. You know, I am so amazed. People want to, they want to do little things to let people know how much they love the Lord. And so you're familiar with the case where the guy put the 10 Commandments out on the lawn of the courthouse down in Alabama and fought it. And the churches riled up, yes. And so I thought, I need to go back and read Exodus. And I did, and I was right, but I thought I was in there. That with the 10 Commandments, the Lord said, obey, not display. So you don't have to, that you're trying to show folk. And you show people by how you live. And what you do to help the community, you show people by giving of your time, your energy, and all that you can muster I grew up dirt poor, if I call it whatever, the son of dirt poor. And I didn't live in a house with indoor plumbing, or running water, or electricity, until we moved out of this shack that used to be a slave shack off Kaufman Street in Wyandotte, Texas, not far from downtown Dallas, until we moved into public housing. Somehow, when we moved to the public housing, when we lived in the shack, my mother, I don't know how, had good dishes. Now, we didn't eat out of these dishes. I'm not walking with me. We didn't eat out of these dishes. And so, now we did on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and when the preacher came over. And so it was, I mean, that's just the way it was. So, I have 3 sisters and no brothers. So when have big Thanksgiving and so forth, my mother brings out their dishes. And we alternated washing dishes. My older sister, was one night, and me, my middle sister, my baby sister. That's what we did. Everybody, there was no confusion. And so my turn comes on Thanksgiving. And everybody else is in the family room watching on the TV we had, black and white, Bradley. And so, I'm in there trying to figure out how to speed up the process. So I got the tablecloth, like I just folded to pick up all the dishes. And I'm going to put it kind of saying that, the tablecloth a little wet, but I was going to, put it in the water. And so I'm picking all this stuff up. And it wasn't my fault. And so when it failed, my mother came in there, and she was just livid. And so she said, "Get out of the kitchen. You get out of the kitchen. You go back in your room." I was the only one in that room because my 3 sisters had a room, my mother and father, and we had 3 bedrooms. I was in. And I was only had a room to myself. And she said, I don't ever want you to touch my good dishes again. I said, oh man. So this was actually my very first political victory. And so about 3 or 4 days later, my mother, after school, she comes in and talks to me. And she said, now tell her about the dishes. And I said, I'll pick up the dishes. And I said, I didn't realize it was going to be that heavy. So I got it. My mother told me, she said, now, boy, let me tell you something. You can't drop this just because it's heavy. And I thought about it 1,000 times since. Yes, it's heavy to carry your faith and use it in building a community. Yes, it is heavy to understand that we have a responsibility to deal with the poor. Matthew 25. It is heavy for us to try to make sure that a community gets out and participates in the politics. But just because it's heavy, there's no reason to try.